Today, I have a story to share with all of you. And this story takes place after human beings have been living on Earth for a while. In a way, it's like a once upon a time story, but it's a true story. When human beings were first on Earth, it was a long, long time ago. When men, women, children were first living here, and when they needed food, they didn't go to the grocery store like we do today. They had to look around to find good things to eat, and they needed to see if it was safe to eat. When someone found something that was good to eat, she could tell the people nearby that it was safe and that it was fine. Hey, look what I found, berries. They're right over here. But what would happen if she was far away from her people? How could she tell them what she found, even if she shouted and waved her arms around? They didn't know that this was good to eat. This was a problem for her and for many other people. After some time, someone came up with the idea, and the idea was to make a picture of what was good to eat. Someone thought, I will make a picture of these berries and I'll leave a message. That way, people will know that these berries are good to eat. And for a long time, this is just what people did. They made pictures of what was important to them and what they wanted to tell people. And time went on, and the picture messages went on just like this. Sometime during that long time ago of picture messages, the people known as the Egyptians also made picture messages. They carved pictures into stone and painted them on things, and they even painted on carvings. Now, these picture messages took a long time to make. And so here's an example. Those picture messages took a long time to make. Because it took such a long time, the Egyptians found a different way to make those pictures. Many of the Egyptians lived along the river Nile. And along that river, they found a plant that they could make into paper. They also made a brush that they could use to make pictures on that paper. And this made the picture messages a little faster to make. And the Egyptians did this for a long time. And time went on. And after a long time, someone came up with another idea. Instead of using a brush, a person made kind of a pen and began to draw a picture with this pen. And these picture messages went on for a long time. Even though these tools make the picture messages, there was still a problem with the Egyptian pictures, like the one you see. The problem was that the picture messages weren't always clear. They weren't easy to understand. It was hard to know what the pictures meant. Sometimes, when the Egyptians drew a picture message, they wanted it to mean an object, like table or pen. And sometimes the picture messages meant an idea. Sometimes the picture messages meant a sound. A picture of a leg may have meant running, or that same picture may have meant quick. So you could see how confusing that might be. How could other people who saw the pictures know what they meant? What were people trying to say? There was another group of people, and these people were known as the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians lived a long time ago, and the Egyptians they lived along the river Nile. They were farmers and they grew crops. The Phoenicians were sailors and traders, and they sailed to many lands and they traded. They sold ornaments and jewelry, spices and glass, and many other things. And they carried all sorts of things that other people wanted to buy. But the Phoenicians also carried something very special that only they knew how to make. It was a beautiful cloth made from a very special dye, and the dye was called Tyrian purple or royal purple. It was used for kings and queens. This purple isn't like the purple of today. It was almost like a reddish purple, kind of maroon in color or wine in color. The Phoenicians carried their goods to different courts, and many people wanted what the Phoenicians had, and they especially wanted that Tyrian purple cloth. All that is very interesting, but the reason that I'm telling you this, the reason that I'm telling you about the Phoenicians, is more than just the Tyrian purple cloth. The Phoenicians knew some picture messages stood for an object, a sound, or an idea, but they also knew that the messages, they weren't always clear. They were busy trading and selling, and they didn't have time for complicated picture messages. They wanted and needed an easier way to record what they bought and sold, and they did something very clever. The Phoenicians decided to keep only the sound pictures. They changed them a bit and kept some of them. And the interesting thing is that those sound pictures, it was easier to write what they wanted to say. Can you imagine every time you wanted to talk about a cat, you had to draw a picture of a cat? So the Phoenicians figured out something that we now use every day. It's what we discovered when we started using sandpaper letters in the Casa de Bambini. Do you remember when you started to make a word like cat? You just found those sandpaper letters and you could make those little marks. And the Phoenicians made that discovery a long time ago. But there was another group of people, and they were known as the Greeks. And the Greeks took the Phoenician marks and changed them for their own writing. And time went on, and some other people, they were known as the Romans. They changed those marks even more. And the Romans called those marks the Roman alphabet. The letters we use today for our alphabet look a lot like those Roman letters. The Phoenicians were the first to use marks for sound, and it allows for people to know what we want to say without using our voices. In the beginning, it was hard for some people to believe that this was even possible. They thought those marks were magic. How can someone understand the meaning of those marks? They didn't believe it was possible. Do you remember that story you were reading the other day? It was the Phoenicians that made that story possible so that we could read it or that you could read it to your siblings or to your parents. We have the Phoenicians to thank. We have to thank them for allowing us to allowing us to write messages to each other and to read stories to each other. Thank you, Phoenicians. Thank you so much. There's so much that you could do with this work. Feel free to write a story, write letters, and continue with the language work that you're doing in this class, okay? And continue with the language work that you do on a daily basis. Thank you.